welcome back to the journey of my YouTube channel, where today I'm doing something different that I have not tried before. I am going completely without notes. So we'll see how this goes, and if I ramble too much or can't think of anything to say, then I won't do this next time and I will go back to notes. But if it goes well, then I will save myself some time by not writing notes. Today I am back talking about sequels again, but I'm also kind of doing something different in this area because I have only really talked about the second book in a series so far. That's usually what I mean when I say sequel, but a lot of books have later books in the series beyond the sequel that are also better than the original, maybe even better than the sequel, and I thought it would be interesting to talk about some of those too. And in my opinion, one of these series where it just gets better the whole time is the Wingfeather saga, which is just one of my favorite series of books of all time anyway. And what's interesting about this series is that it's one of those where the first book in the series is actually my least favorite, which is not to say that I don't like it. I do. But it was different than I expected. I thought that more stuff was going to happen. I thought that there would be more action, and it does have a lot of humor. It's very funny. It's not quite as silly as I thought it might be. When people talk about this series, sometimes the first thing they'll say is, "It's so funny." And having read the series, I'm like, well, yes, but why is that the first thing that comes to your mind when you talk about it? Sure, it's funny, but it's not like the whole series is a joke or anything. Still, I would say the tone of especially the first book is fairly lighthearted and funny, and it feels like a kid's story. Then we get into North or Be Eaten, which is also one of my favorite book titles, and it starts getting a little bit more intense, a little bit more serious. I mean, you can tell just from these two covers that the tone is fairly different. This one is a lot lighter, this one is a lot darker. So I like North or Be Eaten. I would say this is a sequel that's better than the original, in my opinion. It dives deeper into the relationships between the characters. There's more danger, more new places, more stuff happens, kind of like what I thought was going to happen in the first book, but it doesn't stop there, because after that we get the monster in the hollows, which on my first read I actually did not like as much as North or Be Eaten, because again, for the first 75% of the book, not as much external stuff happens as I expected. But when I reread this, I appreciated it a lot more because I knew what was coming and I knew what was being set up in the earlier parts of the book. So I had a lot more appreciation for the somewhat quieter tone. There's a lot of just normal life in this book. Just a lot of the characters trying to be normal kids, going to school, helping their mom, and yes, they're trying to solve mysteries and eventually save the world. But there is a lot of just everyday family life in here, which is valuable to have in a fantasy book, I think, especially one for kids, to just ask, what does daily normal life look like after you've been through some of these things, and how do you try to get back to normal? And there's also so much important setup for what's going to happen in book 4, and what happens in book 4 would not be nearly as impactful without this one. So, and then there's the ending of the monster in the hollows, which was possibly the most emotionally upsetting ending to a book that I've read, especially because of when I read it. If I read it for the first time now, I don't think it would hit me as hard because I'm a little bit older, but at the time I was just destroyed by the ending of this book. I almost didn't like it at the time because I was so destroyed, but I've come to appreciate that too. So yeah, I would say that this is also a sequel that's better than the original. It is probably even better than North of Eden. I don't know. They're pretty close in my mind. And then we're still not done, because there's The Warden and the Wolf King, which I would say is my favorite of the series, again, mostly because of the ending, which is possibly the second most emotionally upsetting ending to a book that I've read, again, at the time. And I even kind of knew it was coming. It wasn't even so much that I was just so shocked. It just hit really hard anyway. In some ways, not as hard as the ending of book 3, actually. But overall, this book is pretty amazing. What Andrew Peterson did with the Cloven, I think, is pretty great. It has more of a quest plot than the other ones, and some people, maybe don't like that quite as much. I like quest plots. Do have a bit of a complaint with how this one went down, but just the change from book one is kind of amazing to see, and it's a gradual change throughout all four books. But the first one starts out comparatively, in a lot of ways, feeling very lighthearted and funny and like a kid's story. And by this time, they're in the middle of an all-out war, and the kids have all grown so much, and they've been through so many hard things, and they're going to go through a lot more hard things in this book, and they're going to ask hard questions, and they're going to face a lot of really difficult situations. They're going to come up against scary stuff, and it has just gotten so much deeper and more intense by this point, and the stakes are just through the roof, and they've traveled a bunch of different places in the world. So I would say that this is a much better sequel, even though it's a fourth book, than the original, just because of how much deeper it goes and how we finally get a lot of payoff from all of the setup in the first three books. It just blew me away with how far we had come since book one. And then there's also Wingfeather Tales, which I have. It's behind me. It's up there. I also have Wingfeather Tales, which is also amazing. I really like it a lot, and in some ways I would even say that Wingfeather Tales, specifically the places beyond the maps, I'm a big fan, and I would say that that is better than the original too. So this is really one of those series that like started well. It was good from the beginning, but then it just kept growing and growing, which I find really exciting in a book series that I read, rather than just the debut was really good and then it kind of trickled out and it never really was as good as the original again. So that makes me really excited for the Wingfeather animated series that is coming out. I will link to that down below in the description, because if you guys don't know about that, you need to know about that. It's amazing, because if the series just keeps getting better and if the creators just keep getting better, then I don't see any reason why the animated series shouldn't be even better than the books, which would be really amazing and exciting. This t-shirt of the week is my Live Free in Christ t-shirt, which I have because of a Bible quizzing team that I was on in 2015, which has been a long time now. And it was just a team for one regional tournament. We were so thrown together at the last minute that we didn't even get custom order t-shirts. Our team name was Freedom, and we got these shirts because they have the word free on them, and that is as custom as we got for that team. Like just a couple weeks before we went, we were switching up who was on the team and everything. It was kind of crazy. We were all really young, really little quizzers, and we were just going to go to this tournament to have fun. It was my first time going to this tournament. I wasn't expecting to really win much of anything, but I just wanted to go for the experience, But our team just kept winning quizzes, and then like getting second in a quiz against a really hard team, and then winning a quiz again. And on the second day of the tournament, when they showed the rankings from the night before, my team like started reading up from the bottom, and we were like, they missed us, where are we on this list? And it was because we were up at number 4 for the whole tournament. We just like could not believe that we were up that high. And then over the course of the tournament day, we ended up in 6th place overall, which was just so much better than we had thought was like even possible to happen. So that was really, really fun, and I always think of that when I wear this shirt. Let me know if you've read the Wingfeather Saga. I want to know who your favorite Wingfeather Saga character is, and let me know if you're excited for the animated series, because I sure am. Let me know any more sequels that are better than the originals, or like 3rd, 4th, 5th books that are better than the originals. It seems like the longer the series gets, the less likely it is for the later books to be better than the first one, so I would love to hear of any situations like that. Until next time, thanks for journeying with me. Bye!